Matt Julian was speaking to me about the film, and then for whatever reason, like, we was developing, and I was like, what's it called? I just never asked him what it was called. He's like, nope. And I laughed for 30 seconds. Like, I was like, that is so funny, because he said that's the reaction that black people will have when they watch it. Like, they're like, nope.
Only on his third film, Jordan Peele is already one of the most prestigious names in filmmaking. It is not exactly surprising. Get Out was a great debut that really shook the horror world, and even though it was more controversial, I personally loved Us as well, maybe even more. In just 2 films, Peele easily established himself as one of the best social analysts in film, while also being incredibly unique in his storytelling and creative energy. So it's no surprise that his next film was gonna attract a few eyeballs. Literally a year before it even came out, I saw people getting excited about a poster that told us basically nothing. It literally just had the word nope on it. But just the idea of a new Peele film was enough to get people absolutely giddy. And no, it wasn't just because his films technically made a complete phrase now. Get Out? Us? Nope. Though I can't deny my love for that fact. A year later, when it finally came out, it was all anyone seemed to be talking about. Thor came out around the same time and cost 3 times more, and yet never touched Nope's cultural footprint. It even led to some questionable takes. Yeesh. But did it live up to all that hype? I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I personally loved it. As a theatrical experience, it's wonderfully tense. The build-up to its inevitable climax feels utterly breathtaking, with us only given enough information to be intrigued, but never enough to get full answers or ruin that creepy ambiguity often necessary in a horror film. The sickening imagery that never gives you a full glimpse but preys on some of your worst fears and burrows into your head is absolutely brilliant. There's one example of this that I won't spoil, but it's a reveal that would typically be, on paper, a bad idea, but had enough horrifying imagery and identity and uniqueness that it ended up being a huge positive, while withholding just enough that a full explanation remains still sickeningly out of reach. It was arguably one of the most nightmarish images of the film for me, and it's one that needed that good of a visual shorthand to be worth it all, and Peele nailed it. And that's another thing. I think it's fair to argue that Peele has improved in his directing and visual flair with each entry in his filmography. Don't get me wrong, Get Out wasn't without its moments of brilliant directing. In fact, it would be a lie to say it wasn't well directed. But in a way, it did feel like Peele was still finding his visual sensibilities, and as such, there was some room to grow. Enter Us. Us really felt like this huge film, an apocalyptic event. And a lot of it came down to its unique camera control and presentation. And this trend continues here. Breathtaking blocking and choreography accentuate these uniquely striking visuals, with bold wides and skillful angling, and, as is always necessary in a good horror movie, creeping dollies. Hell, one of my favorite details is how, as the scenes in the film get more chaotic and busy in the frame, the camera often stays at that even standing, but constantly changes what is given focus in that stable moving frame, giving it that feeling of centering, where you start on the characters only to expand further to see the eldritch horror of being haunted by something you can only barely understand. That's skillful as all hell. And God, the action shots are fantastic. Just sweeping and bold, and is that a live-action Akira slide? God damn, Peele, that was smooth as butter. I love you, man! But even with the excellence of Peele, this film wouldn't be the same without this cast. I mean, at this point, Daniel Kaluuya doesn't really need to prove much anymore about his talent. Between Skins, Black Mirror, Get Out, Widows, and Judas and the Black Messiah, there is no denying this man can act his ass off. With all of its subtlety, certainly adds another one of my favorite performances from him to the books. Steven Yeun, as well, is for sure one of my favorite actors around today, and he too is fantastic with this obsessive and odd character that feels like a total wildcard every time he's on screen. And I gotta give props to Brandon Perea, who hadn't had much of a big role before this, but absolutely killed his performance here as this nervy dork obsessed with UFOs and conspiracies.
Anyway, Ancient Aliens, History Channel, watch that shit.
Yeah, don't watch that. Listen to It's Probably Not Aliens instead. Shout out Scott and Tristan. And Keke Palmer. What an excellent performance from an actress I'm glad is finally getting the appreciation she deserves. She is the bright star of this cast, and she dominates every scene she is in. Well deserving of all the praise she's got. So this film is great, right? You probably got that by now. Hell, you've probably seen it already and know that for yourself. But is it flawless? No, I don't think so. And some of that comes down to certain writing choices. Don't get me wrong, this film has mostly great writing. Peele has never been a slouch. I like the little details here, from the little moments of comedy like Daniel Kaluuya asking a horse,
That's good.
like he's talking to a friend who ate a little too much of an edible, to the nice detail of the cinematographer's obsessiveness being shown in the fact that he willingly edits on a Steenbeck, which in my experience with Steenbecks must also make him a masochist, and the hilarity of inserting a TMZ character seemingly just to immediately embarrass them, then kill them. Oh, and Peele, don't think I didn't notice you bring the film to a pause just to basically tell Chris Kattan, not funny, didn't laugh. That fucking rules. But admittedly, despite this maybe being my favorite Peele film yet, I do think the writing can feel a bit more bare here than before. I mean, let's talk about the themes here. Get Out and Us were admittedly much more direct with their themes of racial fetishization and class divide respectfully. But being less direct is not a bad thing either. Hell, I love subtle and beautiful themes. That's a lot of what I cover on this channel. But I do think there's an element here that does feel a bit less fully developed to me. I understand the themes here. It's about the spectacle and how it can be exploitative, attractive, dangerous, appealing, and utterly intoxicating in its wide berth. I also noticed the admitted biblical allusions, and yes, that the UFO is in ways shaped like the curtains and viewfinder section of a camera. But admittedly, I feel like these themes can feel a bit thin. As I said, it encapsulates the spectacle, sure, and there's a desperation to it, but it never feels like it fully unfolds a message on the spectacle. And that plays into other parts of the script that I feel could have been developed more. Gordy and Jupe's relationship to fame, their arcs, and how it changed Jupe, I feel ended a bit short of what it could have meant. The monetary situation of the Haywood Ranch as well was kind of forgotten outside of the idea of if we capture this UFO, we strike it big. Which yes, that does play into an aspect of the spectacle, but neither part of that fully develops into a full message or point for me. And while the film ends strong, it ends without a full resolution to any of these points. I know it's already a bit over 2 hours long, but a little bit of these extra developments would have gone a long way to really making this film as excellent as it could have been. But even with some elements that I think stop short of their potential, it's hard to not sit here and just tell you how fully impressed I was with this film. It was genuinely one of the best theatrical experiences I had in a while. Well, outside of the high school kids who kicked my seat so they could take mine and then attempted to follow me out of the theater. Fuck you guys. But the rest was spectacular. It does waver a bit in my feelings reflecting on it, but it still holds up well enough that I can safely say that this is gonna be one of my favorite films of the year. Even if I think with tightening these elements I mentioned, it would rank even higher. What can I say but, he did it again, folks. Jordan Peele's Nope gets an 8 out of 10.